Did you see this? Our friend Bill Gates, longtime climate alarmist, has now reversed his position and said, yeah, don't worry too much about climate change. It's not that big of a deal. Here's a headline. Bill Gates makes major climate change reversal after years of doomerism. People will be able to live and thrive. Why, Bill, after all your activism, that is quite a big change of mind. My question is, why have you changed your mind on this? Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my freedom-loving friend. This is where we like to help spread the light of truth and freedom because truth conquers. A message Bill Gates probably never got. He doesn't have the greatest reputation on telling the truth amongst his vast array of topics he likes to talk about, potentially untruthfully, has been the climate. And now he's doing this big change of mind. Climate change, it's not that big of a deal. He's reversing his position. He's making headlines all over the place. Now we're going to hear from Bill himself on this all of a sudden 180-degree pivot. We'll see that coming up. We'll also see what President Trump has to say about it and some other opinions around the internet. But to me, the biggest question that Bill hasn't answered, why would you expect him to, is why is Bill actually changing his mind on this? What is his agenda? We've got some theories. We'll show you those here in the video. But first, starting out with DC Drano on Twitter, this is a huge victory. Bill Gates and the climate change alarmists are finally admitting humans will be just fine. Truth tellers were demonized for years for saying the extremism was unwarranted, but even with massive censorship, the data keeps proving that human activity isn't causing the planet to combust. The conspiracy theorists remain undefeated. That would be true. And to DC Drano's point, YouTube has deplatformed people for talking about this actual science. I'm not using the term science flippantly, as I usually do, but for deplatforming people for talking about the science of climate patterns. Now, Bill Gates, someone who potentially urged YouTube to do that, don't know if he did, but potentially, he's changing his mind. And of course, the very thing that has been censored for years is simply this. Here's Dr. David Bellamy. Global warming is part of a natural cycle, and there's nothing we can actually do to stop these cycles. The world is now facing spending a vast amount of money in tax to try to solve a problem that doesn't exist. So essentially, the premise is, yeah, there's natural cycles. Sometimes it's warmer, sometimes it's cooler in these centuries-long cycles. But if you're an alarmist, potentially with some kind of controlling agenda, you can look at a natural cycle and say, hey, that's humans that's doing that. We need to control those humans. Hey, humans, we're going to control you because it's getting warmer. Well, we know you don't want to be controlled, but here's the good part. We're doing it for your protection. Here's what President Trump tweeted out about Bill Gates changing his mind on climate change. We just won the war on climate change hoax, the climate change hoax. Bill Gates has finally admitted that he was completely wrong on the issue. All caps, I like that. It took courage to do so, and for that we are all grateful. MAGA. Now, the only thing I disagree with President Trump on this is taking courage for Bill Gates to change his mind. Remember how I said the overarching question is, why did Bill change his mind? Was it because all of a sudden, after decades of not climate activism, but climate alarmerism, Bill Gates all of a sudden saw actual scientific reports on the natural cycles of climate change throughout the Earth's history? Never saw them before. All of a sudden, they find their way onto Bill's desk. He's like, gosh, I've never seen these before. This makes a lot of sense. I'm going to change my mind. Either that happened. Guess what? I'm not putting a lot of money on that. Either that happened or Bill Gates has another agenda. And this end stage agenda, it's now going to be just better supported by saying, hey, let's not worry about the climate change. Where once upon a time, he deemed it, okay, what supports my agenda is alarming people about climate change. So that's the question. What might his agenda now be? We'll get to some theories. But first, just so you don't have to take my word for it, here's a little sampling of Bill Gates's history of intense climate alarmerism. Take a look.
The world emits over 51 billion tons of greenhouse gases. And as we keep doing that, the consequences for human life will be catastrophic. And time is running out.
The consequences on human life will be catastrophic and time is running out. That's quite a contrast with Bill now saying, yeah, it's not going to be catastrophic consequences on human life. Boy, Bill, why did you say that then? And why are you saying this now? Now, we're going to hear Bill Gates walking back his position during an interview here that just happened. Because Bill has such a way, let's just say a Kamala Harris, Biden-esque way with words. He takes so long and he says absolutely nothing. So you can't tell what the guy, and he's just doing PR backtracking. So no matter how much he talks, he says nothing. So let's get a summary of Bill's position from someone else. This case, Mario Naufal on Twitter. Bill Gates to world. Stop obsessing over CO2. Start saving people. Okay. Bill Gates just told the climate world to change the subject. In a 17-page memo ahead of next month's UN summit in Brazil, he calls for a strategic pivot. It's always strategic, isn't it, Bill? Away from cutting emissions and toward fighting poverty, disease, and suffering in the world's poorest countries. So Bill's the optics of his premise is we need to save humans. I really care about humans. So we're not going to save humans by focusing on climate change stuff. We're going to save humans by eradicating disease. Gosh, do you have investment in what you call the cure for that, Bill? That's Gates' argument in a sentence. Climate change is serious, but not it's very serious. I take it very seriously, but not civilization ending. And the obsession with emissions is starving real human solutions. Climate scientists fired back instantly. Every 10th of a degree, they warn fuels disaster. Critics like Jeffrey Sachs call the memo vague and pointless. Yeah, Bill doesn't even speak English. He speaks vague and pointless. Arguing poverty relief and decarbonization can happen together if politics, not physics, gets fixed. But Gates' points hit a nerve. Billions in climate funding chase abstract climate. I wish I could read. Billions in funding chase abstract temperature targets while disease and hunger killing the president. He doesn't care about feeding people. He's got his fake meat company and his biolab genetically engineered beef. So I do believe he has some investment in wanting to feed people. What are you feeding them, Bill? That's a great question. And of course, eradicating disease. Boy, that guy just loves to inject people, whether they want it or not, with things that Bill says are beneficial. His message now: you can't save the planet if you ignore the people living on it. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to welcome Bill Gates onto the show, who was interviewed just yesterday morning on CNBC. Let's hear your vagary, Bill, on how you're walking this back.
Climate is a super important problem.
Okay. He's saying that. He doesn't want to discredit everything he's done in the past. Super important.
There's enough innovation here to avoid super bad outcomes.
Okay. Or we're going to avoid super bad outcomes. Is that because of the innovation in place? Okay, Bill.
We won't achieve our best goal,
no.
The 1.5 or even the 2 degrees.
Yeah.
And as we go about trying to minimize that, we have to frame it in terms of overall human welfare, not just everything should be solely for climate.
Okay. By the way, I'll stop interrupting. I know that's annoying, but as you watch this riveting explanation from Bill Gates on why he reversed his stance on climate alarmerism. If there's any body language experts out there, just observe Bill. Watch him fidgeting with his glasses constantly, talking with his hands. It almost looks like he's either making this stuff up as he goes, or he's just lying with optical talking points to cover his things he doesn't want to talk about.
Climate activists who have been very supportive of what you've done, and you've been very supportive of what they've done,
good work.
Read this. And if Greta Thunberg is reading this and saying to herself, my goodness, he seems like he is reversing himself, what would you tell her?
I'd say,
how dare you?
wasn't the goal here to improve human lives? And shouldn't we, in our awareness of how little generosity there is to help, measure, should we get them a measles vaccine or should we do some
Are we talking about vaccines already, Bill? Okay.
climate related activity? And if we stop funding all vaccines and that, saved you 0.1 degree, would that be a smart trade-off? That's the kind of question we have to ask. So I'm a climate activist, but I'm also a child survival activist. If you think climate is the only problem and it's apocalyptic, or if you think climate's not a problem at all, my memo will make no sense to you. You'll be like, oh no, it should all be climate, or you'll be like, why are you even still talking about this climate thing? Why do you invest billions of your money into these companies? The middle position, that climate is super important, but has to be considered in terms of overall human welfare. I didn't pick that position because it's everybody agrees with it. It's, I think, intellectually the right answer.
I agree with you, Bill. Intellectually, it's the right answer. But the question I really want the right answer about is, why has Bill Gates actually reversed his public position on climate? What's his agenda? There's theories out there. Carrie Lake has a theory. Here it is. Bill Gates profited from his doomsday climate hoax and now wants to walk it back as his Gates Foundation's Chinese Communist Party ties finally face Senate scrutiny. I didn't know that was happening to Bill and his very philanthropic foundation. He doesn't get to shrug off responsibility for what his baseless fear-mongering did to a generation of kids. Recent reports show, I think it's 54% of young people are afraid to have kids, under the premise of, I'm afraid to have kids, bringing them into a world that's facing volcanic eruptions, climate explosion, like climate's trying to kill you in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. So Carrie Lake's hypothesis is Bill is being investigated for his ties to the Chinese Communist Party. She, in other pieces of media, has said that he's given the Chinese Communist Party, communists, ladies and gentlemen, over $20 million. So that's her theory on why he might be walking this back. Other theories on the whole climate hysteria. It's a good spearhead of communism. We're out to control people. So what do we? I don't care how we can. It's climate. Okay, we're doing this for your protection. We have control over you. And then some other potential theories. You heard from old Billy Boy himself. Boy, our mission is just to help people survive. That's really what I care about. So, gosh, we have to feed people and give them a lot of shots, right? So we know Bill Gates has major investments. I'm not even going to say in good solutions, but what he would call good solutions for eradicating disease. It's probably not news to you. He's got some major investments and he's been a long time, basically drug pusher of things. So, if we take some focus off saving people through climate change, that's actually proven hard to be profitable. But we need more shots for more people that don't want them. Cool, a lot of money to be made there. And now he's talking about hunger. Gosh, why weren't you talking about that a while ago, Bill? That's actually a problem solvable by buying people food. But in this case, Bill Gates has major investments in unnatural food companies. Here's a fake hamburger. It's plant-based. Why does it have 90 ingredients? Because it's literally cheap junk food. And also he's got investments in lab-grown beef that doesn't involve beef coming from cows. Sounds supernatural. It's probably better than the God-given product. So Bill has some major investments in food solutions to hunger. What if we get governments to give us their money? We're doing philanthropy here. It's a hard word to say when I'm not actually doing it. So we need to pay you to pay us, invest, be philanthropic. We'll give people the food that we make and profit from. It's the worst food on the planet, by the way. So there's some potential hidden agendas. And there is one that I think is also very relevant. People say Bill Gates has some major investments in AI. That wouldn't be too far of a stretch for Mr. Computer Dork himself. Now, the thing with AI, apparently it takes buttloads of energy to run. It's not very congruent with we need to reduce CO2 at all costs, because it's like takes so much energy and creates CO2. So some are saying, well, he doesn't want any pushback on his growth of AI, his growth of AI investments, and therefore it's convenient for him to start to minimize the climate change hysteria. Because if he were to be in both camps, we need AI, I got investments, we're growing that, and we need to reduce CO2, we'd say, Bill, we know you're a hypocrite, but like you look too hypocritical right now. So that might be another hidden agenda of Bill Gates's. So in summary, we've got a few potential motives Bill Gates has. Walking back the climate alarmism, it could be because he's now being investigated to his ties to the Chinese Communist Party. It could be because he has major investments in things and he just wants more sole focus pushing those. Could be because he has major investments in genetically engineered fake food and he wants more push going into those. And it could be because he has major investments in AI, which is extremely energy intensive, creates CO2, and he wants to just clear cut the forest so he can walk freely into profit land in AI. Now, the thing about these 4 specific hidden motives that Bill Gates might have, my guess is, they're all at play simultaneously. They're not mutually exclusive, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think it's just one is his motive. I think all 4. The only thing I would say that's wrong with that is he's probably got other motives that you and I don't know about. These are the ones that aren't even hard to find. They're not even an inch below the surface. They're on the surface. Bill's not going to talk about them. He's not going to be honest with you. But these are the 4 obvious ones. But let me know what you think about Bill and his motives and his now change of mind on climate change. Hey, the good thing about climate change is you can change the climate of your own mind about climate change. So let me know your thoughts about it all in the comments below, and I'll look forward to seeing you on our next video. But until then, stay free. Bill Gates!